dark side of the boom. Streaming now.
Hello and a very warm welcome. Thanks for tuning into News 9 Live. I'm Kabir Naqvi and we're bringing you this special broadcast of top stories from our studios here in the National Capital Region. And like always, we're styled exclusively by Paul Moore. We have an expansive list of stories for you to cover. It is essentially for you to catch the news pulse of the day. Of course, we will be talking about why rock music is blaring on the streets of Argentina. It was a pretty close presidential election runoff. More importantly, we'll also throw light on why the world's richest 1% emit more carbon. Their carbon output is more than the poorest 66%. I mean, look at the discrepancy. And other international developments as well. Global climate stories is going to be our focus as well. We will talk about why the rains are wreaking havoc in the Dominican Republic. In Afghanistan, the Taliban has come out and said that all the refugees that have been pushed out of Pakistan, they're going to face trouble ahead of the oncoming winter. We'll talk about all of this, even as India is looking forward to the 2+2 dialogue with Australian counterparts and United States' counterparts. Both of those dialogues happening today, apart from the Uttarkashi tunnel rescue update that we will be bringing to you. But first and foremost, shifting our focus to the 45th day of the West Asian conflict, the war between Israel and Hamas. The following content may contain visuals that are disturbing, graphic, or sensitive in nature. Viewer discretion is advised. This material is intended for mature audiences and may not be suitable for all viewers. Please exercise caution while watching, and if you find such content distressing, we recommend discontinuing viewing. This disclaimer is provided to ensure awareness and to prioritize viewer well-being. Now, the war between Israel and Hamas has entered its 45th day. There is no end to the fighting in sight. Israel is now looking to expand its operations into southern Gaza, whilst a deal to release the hostages still seems far away. But first and foremost, let's take a look at the top developments that are coming out from the war front. Israel has released CCTV footage claiming that hostages were taken to the Al-Shifa hospital on the 7th of October, right after Hamas's onslaught in southern Israel. IDF claims it found a 55-meter-long tunnel under the Al-Shifa hospital. Says it's a tunnel shaft that has blast doors on either end. Meanwhile, Israel and Hamas, they're closing in on a hostage release deal, according to various reports that are doing the rounds. According to Qatar mediators, only minor challenges and hiccups are left, and they will be ironed out soon as well. But lo and behold, no particularly clarified and corroborated deal about hostages release out in the open. Meanwhile, premature babies have been evacuated from the Al-Shifa, and they've been transferred to various hospitals and medical facilities in the southern part of the Gaza Strip. Yemen's Houthis and the rebels, they've hijacked a cargo ship. Israel says no Israelis on board, but 20+ nationalities are part of the crew, apart from people that are on that particular cruise ship as well. United States' President Joe Biden has rejected mounting calls for a ceasefire in Gaza. Same coming across from Benjamin Netanyahu as well, who says that there is going to be no deal on the release of hostages or a ceasefire until everybody, all Israelis, civilian soldiers alike, make their way home. On the other hand, talking about the death toll, it has crossed 12,000. Over 12,000 Palestinians, more than 5,000 of them children, have been killed in the war, according to the Gazan Health Ministry. Now, important developments here, because it's day 45, and those who've been watching the ongoing developments in this West Asian conflict would understand that Israel on Sunday published a video claiming that it has uncovered a tunnel shaft under the Al-Shifa hospital in northern Gaza. In a statement and a video, the Israeli army said it found a 55-meter long, that's 180 feet, and a 10-meter deep tunnel, that's 32 feet, under the Gaza's largest medical facility, the Al-Shifa medical compound. The army published a video that you're seeing on your screens as well. These are the same pictures. The army published a video on its official Telegram channel showing a soldier who was making his way into the tunnel. The footage was shot with two separate cameras on the 17th of November, if the caption of the IDF video is anything to go by. The videos show a staircase leading to an arch. Take a look at that. That's that particular video where the staircase lead down to a particular arch of a concrete passage that ends in what appears to be a door. Now the army, the Israeli army, says it is the entrance of a tunnel shaft with a blast-proof door and a firing hole that is put out in the door as well. Now, according to the IDF, again, quoting the Israeli Defense Forces here, they're saying this type of door is used by Hamas terrorist organization to block Israeli forces from entering the command centers and underground assets belonging to the Hamas terrorist organization. The statement, however, does not mention what is behind this door that you see on your screens. The tunnel was found in the area of the hospital underneath a shed alongside a vehicle that contained numerous weapons including RPGs, explosives and Kalashnikov rifles, according to the Israeli Defense Forces. And that's not all. The Israeli army also released a video showing a CCTV footage of what they claim were Hamas terrorists bringing in hostages from Israel into the Shifa hospital on the 7th of October, the day when Hamas carried out that deadly attack on southern Israel. Take a look at that. The visuals on your screens. Of course, I will describe the visuals, but take a look at them. These are CCTV grabs. Now, the video that was aired by Chief Spokesperson Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari showed a group of men frog marching an individual into a hospital. Take a look at that. Whilst the second clip showed an injured man on a gurney. Now, Hamas is yet to comment on the claims made by Israel. Around 240 plus hostages were taken during Hamas's deadly assault on southern Israel on the 7th of October.
We've also gathered more intelligence from the hospital, proving that Noah Marziano was not the only hostage taken by Hamas into Shifa Hospital. I will now share concrete evidence of hostages. One from Nepal, one from Thailand, taken from Israel during the Hamas massacre on October 7th. The world must remember, Hamas is holding the elderly, men, women, children, babies, hostage. The Israel Defense Forces has a moral obligation to bring every one of our hostages home. We will not rest until we do. Hamas was hiding and murdering our hostages in Shifa Hospital. Hamas was building terror tunnels underneath Shifa Hospital. By now, the truth is clear. Hamas wages war from hospitals, wages terror from hospitals.
Even as the blame game continues and both sides try to corroborate who's telling the truth here, the death toll is mounting. Ongoing clashes persist in northern Gaza as Israeli forces and Hamas terrorists engage in a fierce battle. Israel's relentless aerial bombardment, initiated in response to that Hamas attack on the 7th of October, has led to the occupation of significant territories in the north and west of Gaza City. Despite these advances, pockets of intense resistance from Hamas continue to pose challenges, particularly in heavily urbanized areas such as Gaza City, Jabalia and Beach refugee camps.
Fighting raged on Sunday between Hamas militants and Israeli forces in parts of North Gaza. Israel has bombarded the area with a devastating aerial blitz since Hamas's October 7 attack. Its forces say they have taken control of large areas of the north and west around Gaza City. But guerrilla-style Hamas resistance remains fierce in pockets of a heavily urbanized area. That includes parts of Gaza City and the sprawling Jabalia and Beach refugee camps. Witnesses reported heavy fighting overnight between Hamas gunmen and Israeli ground forces trying to advance in Jabalia. It is the largest of the enclave's camps with nearly 100,000 people, most of whom rejected Israeli appeals to evacuate to the south. There on Saturday, civil defense forces and civilians were digging through the rubble, searching for survivors of an Israeli strike. Due to a lack of equipment, they are forced to use their hands, said one ambulance worker.
As you can see, a military bombardment hit this place, making this huge crater. Now we're standing above the rubble, where 15 people are trapped. 3 bodies were pulled out, and we are currently searching for more.
Gaza's health ministry says Israel's constant bombardment has killed 12,300 people, including 5,000 children. That's after the Hamas cross-border rampage, in which around 1,200 Israelis were killed and 240 taken hostage. On Saturday, the Washington Post reported that a tentative deal had been agreed for the release of dozens of women and children hostages in exchange for a 5-day pause in fighting. This was, however, later denied by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and US officials. Nevertheless, on Sunday, Qatar's Prime Minister said the main sticking points blocking such a deal were very minor and mainly practical and logistical issues.
There's another development in this particular conflict. Yemen's Houthis claim to have seized an Israeli ship in the southern Red Sea and taken it to the Yemeni port. The announcement came from the group's military spokesperson, Yahya Sarriah, in a televised statement on Sunday. Take a look at this. Israel previously stated that the Iran-aligned group had seized a British-owned and Japanese-operated cargo ship in the same area. A U.S. defense official mentioned awareness of the situation, stating they are closely monitoring it. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office clarified that a ship, unnamed, had been seized, but it had no Israeli connections or crew on board. Some specific tweets that were put out by the Prime Minister of Israel's office on your screens, where Benjamin Netanyahu's office says that on board the vessel are 25 crew members of various nationalities, including Ukrainian, Bulgarian, Filipino, and Mexican. No Israelis are on board. But it also clarifies that this is another act of Iranian terrorism and constitutes the leaps and bounds to which Iranian-backed proxies are taking into control and the high-handedness with which they're approaching this particular conflict. Now, earlier on Sunday, the Houthis declared that all ships owned or operated by Israeli companies or carrying the Israeli flag could, in fact, be targeted. Listen in to what the Houthi military general had to say.
نفذت القوات البحرية في القوات المسلحة اليمنية بعون الله تعالى عملية عسكرية في البحر الأحمر كان من نتائجها الاستيلاء على سفينة إسرائيلية واجتيادها إلى الساحل اليمني. إن القوات المسلحة اليمنية تتعامل مع طاقم السفينة وفقا لتعاليم وقيم ديننا الإسلامي.
Meanwhile, Japan, that has its residents and citizens on that particular cruise, on Monday said that it was seeking the early release of crew members from a British-owned and Japanese-operated cargo ship that was seized by Yemen's Houthis in the southern Red Sea. Listen in to this next reaction.
船員に日本人は含まれていないと報告を受けています。政府としてこのような行為を断固非難します。現在、国交省、外務省等の関係省庁が情報収集を進めつつ、関係国と連携しながら、当該船舶及び船員の早期解放のため取り組んでいるところであります。
But away from all the digression, taking you back inside the Gaza Strip, displaced Gazans in Khan Yunis are questioning what is to come next as Israel prepares to expand its offensive against Hamas to the densely populated south. The tent city near Nasser Hospital now shelters thousands who have been displaced. Gaza's health ministry raised its death toll from the unrelenting Israeli bombardment to 12,300, including about 5,000 children. Israel's aggressive actions have left significant portions of the north in ruins, and about two-thirds of Gaza's 2.3 million inhabitants have been forced to seek refuge in the south. The situation remains dire, and the displaced residents anxiously await what the future holds amid the ongoing conflict. And in Khan Yunis itself, Palestinian children are struggling to find moments of relief from the horrors of the Gazan war in a playground. The sounds of laughter and delight filled the air as the youngsters were caught on camera playing on swings and slides. A rare moment indeed. However, the grim reality of the ongoing conflict is never very far away. The toll on children is staggering, with nearly 5,000 young lives lost out of the 12,300 Palestinians that have been killed since October 7th, according to Gaza's health ministry. Palestinians in the besieged strip are facing dire conditions, reporting shortages of basic supplies like diapers, baby formulas, and food. Hundreds of thousands, including displaced children, moving from northern Gaza to the south, are seeking shelter in UN schools but have limited access to essential needs. Amidst all of this, a little moment that the children can find to fill the air with laughter and smiles. And those smiles, those young lives, that's exactly why diplomacy is important. It becomes ever more significant. Qatari Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman Al Thani expressed optimism about potential hostage deal between Israel and Hamas. He mentioned that the remaining challenges are quote-unquote very minor and primarily practical and logistical. The Washington Post reported a tentative agreement involving Israel and the United States and Hamas to release women and children hostages in Gaza in exchange for a 5-day halt in fighting. However, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the United States' officials stamped down on it, denying that particular agreement.
One horror doesn't justify another horror. And the pain that you inflict to the children of others will not justify, will not compensate for the pain that your children have been suffering. But the contrary, it will create a violence spiral that will come once and again unless we got a peace, a sustainable peace. And that's why the European Union has called for immediate humanitarian pauses. And the United Nations Security Council, under the request of one member of the European Union, Malta, and with the support of France and Germany, members of the European Union, adopted a very important resolution asking for immediate, urgent and sustainable humanitarian pauses.
When you come closer to the goal, you feel your confidence levels are increasing, and we hope that we are reaching to that point. The sticking points, honestly, at this stage are more practical, logistical, not really something represent the core of the deal. The deal is going through ups and downs from time to time throughout the last few weeks, but I think that I'm now more confident that we are close enough to reach to a deal that can bring the people safely back to their homes, whether they are the hostages on Hamas side or whatever the exchange that will take place from the Israeli side.
Meanwhile, the Israeli army also released the names of 3 more soldiers killed in battles in the northern Gaza Strip since Saturday evening, bringing the total death toll of the IDF forces in that expansive operation inside the Gaza Strip to 65 now. The Israeli army announced on Sunday that 380 soldiers and officers had been killed since the 7th of October, the majority of whom were killed in a surprise attack on an Israeli military base and towns in the Gaza Strip on the 7th of October. The official Israeli Broadcasting Authority reported on Sunday that 60 soldiers were killed in the ground operation in the northern Gaza Strip since October 27. According to a latest report, now that number has gone up to 65 with the death of 3 more IDF soldiers. A Saudi aid plane departed from Riyadh carrying aid and relief supplies for Gazans on the 19th of November. Now, the aircraft has been scheduled to travel to Egypt's Arish airport in North Sinai. Meanwhile, ministers from Arab and Islamic countries have announced a visit to China as part of a tour that aims at ending the war in Gaza. And like I mentioned, what a great segue. Arab and Muslim leaders are turning to China to try and increase pressure on the United States and Israel to agree to a formal ceasefire in the Gaza Strip, presenting Beijing with another opportunity to grow its diplomatic influence and presence in a region traditionally dominated by Washington. The foreign ministers of Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Jordan, Indonesia, and the Palestinian Authority, all key United States' allies or partners, are visiting Beijing today and tomorrow, on Monday and Tuesday that is, and their goal is going to be to build pressure outside the West to stop Israeli military operations and force renewed efforts to create an independent Palestinian state. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, he held a meeting with top foreign policy officials from the Palestinian Authority and 4 Muslim-majority countries as the ongoing conflict between Israel and Hamas claims thousands of civilian lives. This recent development could serve as a glimpse into the potential future dynamics of the world order in the coming decades. Earlier this year, Beijing notably caught the Biden administration off guard by effectively mediating the normalization of relations between Saudi Arabia and Iran as well. And this is what we're picking up at the moment. Arab and Muslim leaders have turned to China to try and increase pressure on the United States and Israel to agree to a formal ceasefire in the Gaza Strip, presenting Beijing with yet another opportunity to grow its already large diplomatic influence and presence in a region that is traditionally dominated by Washington. Well, Newsnight Live will continue to bring you all the latest developments and details in terms of what's happening inside the Gaza Strip and the diplomatic quarters in terms of what kind of dialogue and peace talks are happening across the globe. But shifting our focus to some top global and international news and updates. In downtown Buenos Aires, hundreds of supporters of Javier Milei filled the streets echoing his anti-establishment mantra that says, "Out with all of them." This happens amidst blaring rock music and celebratory honking. Listen in. Well, now Argentina took a bold leap, electing the right-wing libertarian Milei as its new president on Sunday. Voters, fueled by frustration with the political status quo, handed Milei a decisive victory, with him securing 56% of the vote, surpassing his rivals just over 44%. What you're looking on your screens right now are global leaders congratulating Javier Milei for his election victory. Reactions started pouring on X, formerly known as Twitter, from current and former Latin American presidents.
Hoy empezamos a dar vuelta a la página de nuestra historia y volvemos a retomar el camino que nunca deberíamos haber perdido. Hoy se termina el modelo empobrecedor del Estado omnipresente, que solo beneficia a algunos mientras la mayoría de los argentinos sufren. Hoy se termina la idea de que el Estado es un botín a repartirse entre los políticos y sus amigos. Hoy se termina esa visión de que los victimarios son las víctimas y las víctimas los victimarios. Hoy retomamos el camino que hizo grande este país. Hoy volvemos a abrazar las ideas de la libertad, las ideas de Alberdi. El modelo de la decadencia ha llegado a su fin. No hay vuelta atrás.
Well, now we've already spoken about how Argentina has taken this bold leap. Let's see how South Americans have voted off late. Argentina has elected far-right leader Javier Milei as its president. Previous elections have thrown pro-left governments in the continent. For instance, in Brazil, Lula da Silva took to the office in January 2023. Similarly, Colombia, Chile have also elected left governments, but this time around in Argentina, a far-right government under Javier Milei. Well, another important story that we are bringing to all our viewers, and bear with me, do stay with me, because it's going to be of grave significance. The world faces twin crises of climate breakdown and runaway inequality. The richest people, corporations and countries are destroying the world with their huge carbon emissions. Exclusive research published in The Guardian reveals a startling reality. 12 of the world's wealthiest billionaires collectively generate more greenhouse gas emissions through their lavish lifestyle choices than what 2 million homes produce annually. Now take a look at this. This elite group featuring Jeff Bezos, Roman Abramovich, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, and others contribute nearly 17 million tons of carbon dioxide, that's CO2, and equivalent greenhouse gases each year. Their luxury purchases, super yachts, private jets, extravagant properties, combined with financial investments, amount to emissions equivalent to powering 2.1 million homes, or the output of 4.6 coal-fired plants. I'm talking about big, huge coal-fired plants. Now take a look at this. A disturbing trend has emerged as the richest 1% of the world, including 77 million individuals like billionaires, millionaires, and those earning over $140,000 a year, accounted for 16% of all of CO2 emissions in the year 2019. Now, using a mortality cost formula which links carbon emissions to excess deaths, the report projects that emissions from the top 1% alone could lead to approximately 1.3 million heat-related deaths in the coming years. But at the same time, it's again important to note here that it would take an individual from the bottom 99%, approximately 1,500 years, to match the carbon footprint of the wealthiest billionaires in just a year. Oxfam advocates for significant measures using hefty wealth taxes on super rich and windfall taxes on fossil fuel companies. Now, Oxfam has in fact put out a solution as well. Oxfam has given the right kind of solution for people to talk about as well. If no action is taken, Oxfam says, the richest will continue to burn through the carbon we have left to use while keeping the global temperatures below the safe limit of 1.5 degrees Celsius, destroying any chance of ending poverty and ensuring equality. Oxfam proposes a 60% tax on the incomes of the top 1%. And Oxfam forecasts an annual revenue of $6.4 trillion in the same beat. And moving on in updates about the Rohingya refugee crisis, which is now rippling down to Southeast Asia as well. Indonesia's Aceh province received the fourth wave of Rohingya refugees, numbering 500 on the 19th of November as per the UNHCR. Around 1,000 Muslim Rohingya refugees who are originally from Myanmar have landed in Indonesia and have reportedly overwhelmed the local facilities. And that's the pain point. This is what people on the ground are worried about, the overwhelming of the local facilities. The UNHCR is waiting for the Indonesian government to make arrangements like providing bigger temporary shelters to accommodate the fresh arrivals. Already 1,000 Rohingyas in Indonesia, another batch. This is the fourth wave of Muslim Rohingya refugees that have made their way to Aceh province in Indonesia.
We ensure the refugees are getting their basic needs, since they have been at sea for many days, more than 2 weeks probably, and ensure the medical needs, because they've been at sea and some may have been sick. Also, we ensure the security around this area.
And in other global developments, Japanese Marines in amphibious assault vehicles stormed an island beach at the edge of the East China Sea on Sunday. It was a simulated attack to dislodge invaders from territory that Tokyo worries is vulnerable to attack from China. The goal was to show that if there is an emergency situation resulting from an attack against our country, Japan can maintain and improve joint operations under that particular scenario. General Yoshida, Chief of Staff for the Self-Defense Forces, Joint Staff, was present to observe the drill. The scope and pace of military exercises in Japan are likely to increase over the next few years, including with US forces after Prime Minister Fumio Kishida in December unveiled the country's biggest military buildup since the Second World War, with a pledge to double defense spending over the next 5 years. Meanwhile, in Madrid, approximately 170,000 people marched against Spain's amnesty law, a concession made by Socialist Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez. Now, this is done to secure a 4-year term with the support of Catalan and Basque nationalist parties. Protesters waving Spanish flags and carrying signs that read "Sanchez traitor" and "Don't sell Spain" voiced concerns about the law's impact on the rule of law and separation of powers. Opposition leaders joined the rally organized by civil groups, and afterward, clashes between protesters and riot police also ensued. Now, Pedro Sanchez has defended the law, citing its potential to ease tensions in Catalonia, despite public opposition. And Liberian President George Weah has conceded to opposition leader Joseph Boakai after a close presidential runoff. Boakai leads with nearly 51% of the votes as Weah calls for unity, acknowledging a divided nation.
Liberia's President George Weah conceded election defeat on Friday following a tight race for the presidency. And that means former Vice President Joseph Boakai is set to take the reins. In a second round of voting, Boakai was leading with 50.9% on Friday, with nearly all the ballots counted.
Votes obtained 814,212.
That's a stark contrast to the last election in 2017, when global soccer legend Weah, buoyed by a wave of hope, trounced Boakai in the second round with 62%. But many have grown disillusioned with Weah since then, due to a lack of progress on his promises to stamp out corruption and raise living standards. Boakai's supporters danced in the streets on Friday night.
I'm so glad today to tell Liberian people thank you very much.
Boakai does, however, now inherit major national challenges. Poverty levels are high in a country still recovering from 2 civil wars and the Ebola epidemic that killed thousands. Shortly after results were announced, Boakai said, "We have a job to do," but added that first and foremost, we want to have a message of peace and reconciliation. That message, in a once volatile country, was bolstered by Weah's concession. Speaking on the radio, he said that he had congratulated Boakai on his victory and that, "I urge you to follow my example and accept the results." Those comments stand out in Western Central Africa, a region that has seen 8 coups in 3 years and where elections are frequently contested in court amid accusations of fraud. Instead, the way has now been paved for Liberia's second democratic transfer of power in 7 decades, the first being when Weah swept to office 6 years ago.
SpaceX Starship launch have seemingly failed, losing contact during the uncrewed mission. But Elon Musk, SpaceX owner, plans to sue Media Matters for alleging false attacks, claiming a thermonuclear lawsuit.
The launch of SpaceX's uncrewed Starship was presumed to have failed on Saturday after contact with the uncrewed spacecraft was lost. But SpaceX's owner, Elon Musk, has vowed to launch something else on Monday, legal action against a liberal media watchdog. Musk announced on his social media platform X, formerly known as Twitter, that he would bring a thermonuclear lawsuit against Media Matters for America for what he called a fraudulent attack on his company. Media Matters has said it found corporate advertisements by IBM, Apple, Oracle and Comcast's Xfinity were being placed alongside anti-Semitic content. It's seen many other major brands, including Disney, pause advertising on the platform. Musk said in a statement that the watchdog had completely misrepresented the real experience on X and created and curated the posts to misinform advertisers and undermine freedom of speech. Media Matters did not immediately respond to an emailed request seeking comment outside of business hours. Advertisers have fled the site since Musk bought it last year and reduced content moderation, resulting in a sharp rise in hate speech, according to civil rights groups. Musk himself this week endorsed an anti-Semitic post on X that falsely claimed members of the Jewish community were stoking hatred against white people. White House spokesperson Andrew Bates on Friday condemned the endorsement of what it called a hideous anti-Semitic conspiracy theory and accused Musk of an abhorrent promotion of anti-Semitic and racist hate that runs against our core values as Americans.
Stage separation.
As for Saturday's launch, that was the second attempt to fly Starship mounted on its Tauri Super Heavy rocket booster. In April's attempt, the spacecraft exploded less than 4 minutes into the flight. About 10 minutes into the latest flight, a company broadcaster said SpaceX Mission Control had lost contact with the vehicle.
Next up, let's circle back home. Let's talk about domestic politics. Let's talk about the fire that erupted in Visakhapatnam's port. But first and foremost, shifting our focus to the top story in this particular segment, at least 41 workers are trapped inside the partially collapsed Silkyara tunnel in Uttarkashi district of Uttarakhand. The tunnel partially collapsed on the 12th of November. A US-made auger machine had been deployed to drill and push in the pipes to save the developed snag, thereby halting the rescue process. Here is the latest from the rescue ops on day 9. 900 millimeter diameter pipe is being inserted through the auger machine. The rescue team is pushing in a 6-inch wide tube which has already been drilled up to 39 meters into the rubble. Now the government has taken 5 action plan to rescue the trapped workers. Of course, a robot is also now going to make its way inside. Meanwhile, drilling remains suspended on Sunday. It has picked up pace again today. Experts are warning that further collapse is also possible in the nearby areas. Like I suggested, experts have already warned of that particular possibility. Now, more than 5 different agencies are on the ground for the rescue of the trapped workers in Uttarkashi, namely the BRO, the SDRF, the NDRF, the NHI, DCL, and of course several other private limited companies as well. Meanwhile, Nitin Gadkari has said that there is light and ample space inside the tunnel victims, and he made the statement after he took an in-person on-site inspection and took stock of the rescue process. Meanwhile, multivitamins, antidepressants, dry fruits are being sent in to the trapped men. The news that's coming out of the tunnel at this moment said that the medical experts are warning that these trapped men could in fact be undergoing severe trauma, mental trauma, and of course breathing and respiratory issues as well. Now, after Union Minister Nitin Gadkari's on-site inspection at the Uttarkashi tunnel on Sunday, drilling remained suspended. It has picked up again today. The rescue teams continue to work simultaneously on different plans for the safe rescue of workers trapped in the collapsed tunnel. The rescue team was preparing to restart the auger machine to bore through the rubble and insert large diameter steel pipes to prepare an escape route for the trapped workers. The Road Transport and Highway Secretary Anurag Jain, he said that the government has undertaken a 5-option action plan to rescue the workers trapped at Silkyara tunnel in Uttarkashi. One is, of course, to drill through where the exact collapse has happened. The other one is to drill through the other mouth of the tunnel, which is in Borat. The Indian Army is also making a proper track on the top of the tunnel for which big earth movers and drillers can get to the top of the tunnel so that vertically the trapped workers can be approached. Now, the rescue team pushed in a 6-inch wide tube up to 39 meters stretch into the rubble yesterday. Successful placement of the tube will ensure another route for sending food and water to the trapped workers as well. Meanwhile, there is a high chance of further collapse in the vicinity of the tunnel as the experts are warning about the situation. Subsequently, the pipe pushing activity was stopped. It has again picked up today. In the ongoing rescue operation of tunnel workers, around 6 agencies are engaged on different roles at the accident site. This includes the ONGC, RVNL, the Satluj Jal Vikas Nigam Limited, the BRO and state PWD. Besides the NHI DCL, the local authorities and the local police are all the agencies carrying out different responsibilities to establish early access to the trapped workers. Let's not forget a highlight mention of the Indian Army. Along with food, water, multivitamins, beg your pardon, and antidepressants are also being sent to workers trapped inside the under construction tunnel at Silkyara in Uttarkashi. Gadkari had told the reporters that there was light and ample space inside the tunnel for the victims.
इस आपदा का मुकाबला हम सब लोग सब प्रकार के प्रयासों से कर रहे हैं। जो अंदर में जो लोग बैठे हुए हैं, जो अटके हुए हैं, उनके प्रति भारत सरकार को, उत्तराखंड की सरकार को और देश की जनता को उनकी सबकी बहुत चिंता है और हमारी सर्वोच्च प्राथमिकता है कि किसी भी प्रकार से उनकी जान बचाए, उनको बाहर निकाले।
Well, as 41 workers remain trapped inside this collapsed tunnel in Uttarakhand for over a week now, more than 180 hours have passed. It's the 9th day of the rescue process. The centre said it has finalized a 5-option plan to rescue them. What is this 5-option rescue plan? Now, Satluj Jal Vidyut Nigam, the SJVNL, is doing the vertical drilling from the top of the tunnel to rescue the trapped labourers. Rail Vikas Nigam Limited, the RVNL, has commenced work on another vertical pipeline for the supply of essential items after the completion of an approach road by the BRO in just a span of 1 day. Meanwhile, the Oil and Natural Gas Corporation, the ONGC, having expertise in deep drilling, has also started the initial work for vertical drilling from the Barakot end, which is the other side of the mouth. One mouth is the Silkyara, the other one is the Barakot end. Meanwhile, the National Highways and Infrastructure Development Corporation Limited, the NHIDCL, that was actually carrying out construction process in this tunnel, will continue to drill from the Silkyara end after working safety arrangements, because the experts have warned that the nearby areas could still potentially collapse as well. On the other hand, the THDCL, the Tehri Hydro Development Corporation Limited, that will work on micro-tunneling from Barakot, for which heavy machinery has already been mobilized towards the Barakot end. That's not all. Prime Minister's office and officials from the PMO were already there. They've been at the Silkyara way before any of the other officials made their way there. It's almost like the PMO has taken charge. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, he spoke with Uttarakhand Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami over the phone to assess the ongoing rescue operations. The Prime Minister assured that necessary rescue equipment and resources are being provided by the centre through mutual coordination between central and state agencies. Pushkar Singh Dhami also carried out various high-level meetings. Several pictures came across from those meets. He expressed hope for the safe evacuation of the trapped workers and emphasized the importance of maintaining their morale, as stated by the Uttarakhand Chief Minister's office. Now, Dhami provided a detailed briefing on the ongoing rescue efforts, ensuring that all trapped workers have a constant supply of oxygen, nutritious food and water. Add to that list multivitamins and antidepressants as well. But the visuals that you're seeing on your television screens, international tunneling expert Arnold Dix reached Silkyara tunnel site and expressed confidence in the ongoing rescue efforts.
President of the International Tunnelling and Underground Space Association, and all of our members all around the world are supporting here. I'm supporting here. We're going to get those men out. What I've seen, seriously, what I've seen, there are great works being done. This is going to happen, and look, we're on it, and that's why we're here. And there's a whole team of us here, and we're going to find a solution, and we're going to get them out.
And what's your observation, sir? You visited just inside of tunnel.
Yeah, even since yesterday, a lot of work has been done, and it's really important that not only are the men rescued, but also the men that are rescuing are safe.
And you are going to top height of tunnel, sir?
Yeah, going there now to have a look. Yeah.
So how many members along with you?
So we have, oh gosh, I can't even estimate. We've got people, the whole world is assisting.
You are discussing with the government of India?
Yes, the whole world is helping, and the team here are fantastic, absolutely fantastic. The real experts on this geology here are here. They're here in the Himalayas.
Rescue operation will be a start from?
I can't comment on the rescue operation. All I can tell you is the plans are looking fantastic.
So what is the situation inside of tunnel?
The tunnel's good. Yeah, tunnel's good. The work's going on, and it's very systematic. The men are all doing a fantastic job. I've seen where the food and the medication and the air and everything is being put through. The men who are doing that are safe. Everything's okay.
And what's your opinion about vertical drilling from the top height of tunnel?
We're going to have a look. Let us go have a look. I can talk to you about that later.
Moving on down south, a massive fire erupted at the Vishakhapatnam fishing harbour around midnight yesterday, damaging around 25 to 30 boats. An Indian Navy vessel had to be brought in to bring the fire under control as multiple fire engines struggled to douse the flames. Cause of the fire is yet to be ascertained. No casualties or injuries were reported in the incident. Each of the boat costs around 15 lakh rupees, putting the estimated loss in the incident to about 4 to 5 crore rupee range. Police Commissioner Ravi Shankar has said a multidisciplinary probe is going to be conducted in the matter.
All the boats which are parked in the fishing jetty number 1, jetty number 0, one of the ships actually caught fire where some boys were there late night. Probably they were all partying. And luckily the other boatsmen, they came and cut it off, de-anchored it and then let it off into the sea. And that particular ship which had caught fire, it had full tank diesel and gas cylinders. So the fire had a multiplier effect, and then it drifted onto the other ships which were parked in the jetty and towards that corner.
Like I promised, our climate change segment coming up next, and taking you straight to the Dominican Republic, where heavy rains from a tropical system turned deadly in the Dominican Republic over the weekend when urban flooding caused a highway wall to collapse completely. Rescuers retrieved bodies from debris in Santo Domingo after the wall collapsed. The Public Works Ministry of the Dominican Republic reported at least 3 vehicles trapped when the wall collapsed amid heavy rains. Reportedly, 9 people are said to have died in the incident on 27 de Febrero Avenue. Over the last 24 hours, the Caribbean island has experienced heavy downpours, thunderstorms and strong winds affecting multiple provinces. Authorities have declared a state of alert in 30 out of the country's 32 provinces. And with winter setting in, the Taliban's acting commerce minister expressed concern about the harsh conditions faced by thousands of Afghan citizens being expelled by Pakistan. Pakistan's decision to expel undocumented Afghans was a response to the Taliban-led administration's alleged reluctance to address terrorists using Afghanistan for attacks in Pakistan. The Taliban insists that militancy is Pakistan's internal matter, urging Islamabad to cease deportations.
موضوعات یک 10 نفر یا 100 نفر نیست، تقریبا 1,700,000 یا 800,000 نفر است و بدون مشکلات و تکلیف هم نیست. زمستان است پیش روی ما. واقعیت من یقین دارم که مهاجرین هم مشکلات بسیار زیاده روبرو هستند. مسائل دوایی است، یا مسائل صحتشان است، مسائل خوراکشان است، مسائل زمستان است، سردی است. موضوعات بسیار زیاد پیش رو داریم و خصوصا به امارات خیلی چالش بزرگ است.
Now, tens of thousands of Afghans, some residing in Pakistan for decades, are forced to leave, with authorities conducting raids to round up more individuals.
Winter is approaching and the weather and the temperature is declining each day. So this is a big concern for the people arriving in here. They need for the immediate shelter because most of them have nowhere safe to go. And this means a serious risk, especially for the women and children, because now they are living under tents, under the open skies. Besides this, most of the people arriving in here, they need for the psychosocial supports, they need for the nutrition support, and also the need for primary health care supports. So these are the prioritized needs most of the people do not have because they lost everything, including their homes, properties, and belongings, and now they are starting in here from the zero.
And that's all the time we have for you in this edition of Top Stories. Lots more continues right on the other side. Keep watching News 9 Live.